Welcome to the idea of where we explore the noise, the nuance, and everything in between. I'm Mike, and this is just a solo episode today. No Bossy today. Bossy is out getting all her teeth pulled. It's like, no, I think just getting one tooth pulled. And this is a space where culture, creativity, and conversation collide. Happy holidays to folks. Happy Indigenous Thursday. Holiday season is upon us. It's hard to believe that 2026 is just a few short weeks away. And I contemplated like not doing an episode today because it's just busy. Work is crazy, and it's kind of cold outside. It's raining, and I was like, let me just go and do something because I've had a lot on my mind recently, and um, the solo episodes are good for me. And I'm trying to get Bossy to do them too. She'll be listening, bruh. The solo episodes are good for me because, it allows me to have just like a free form chat with myself. I am absolutely a verbal processor, and the process of, feeling something in my gut, thinking something in my head, and then expressing it verbally, it's cathartic for me. It helps me to hear my thoughts in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Like it helps me to, some people write things down. Some people have to, sit on it and think. I have to talk it out. So a lot of times when I'm on my runs, or if I'm working out, or if I'm just solo in the house, a lot of times I'm talking to myself because there's just some things I have to get out, and like to not to get out like, oh man, there's so much on my heart. It's heavy. It's not that get out. It's just, I literally have to hear it for it to be true for me, or for it to feel real to me. And so these solo episodes are helpful. I feel like they might resonate more with men. I feel like there's more space when it's just me to, to kind of be more introspective in a way and provide perspective that is mine. And as a man, as a Black man, I feel like more men might be able to relate to it. So anyway, I've decided to go ahead and push record. And I have no script. I have no notes. Look, my desk is empty. I'm just talking to the camera. And a lot of times that's where I feel safest. That's where I feel most comfortable. And I don't know if it's a dad thing, if it's a parent thing, if it's just a middle-aged man thing, but in a lot of other spaces, and I think I shared this with Bossy or on an episode with Bossy before, I'm hyper sensitive of my presence in different conversations as being a man, specifically being a straight man. And so I'm cognizant and I might overcompensate for this. And I'm saying I might overcompensate for this. In certain spaces, I'm really quiet, and I let the space breathe because I am fundamentally aware that my voice is loud in some spaces, like my presence is loud. I am very much, a northerner, East Coaster, New Yorker, and folks that don't understand like the power of growing up in New York City. It's like, how I've processed it is that there's so much noise all the time that we don't really get the concept of like cutting people off in conversation. You know what I'm saying? It's a lesson I had to learn in my marriage a lot. Like if we're talking and we're both talking and we kind of talk over each other, it's not like if you say something that's wrong, or if you say something that's right, and I agree with it, or I don't, or I have a different point or whatever, like we just gonna talk it out. Like we're just gonna both keep talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not like a disrespect thing. It's just, there's so much noise. There's so many people in my head, right? There's so many people like, well, it's not disrespect. Like it's just me talking, you talking at the same time. Like our points are going to get across. Like it's going to get out there anyway. But I had to learn that, I actually have to stop talking for some people to process their thoughts and for them to hear what what they're thinking. So these episodes are helpful for me because I can talk uninterrupted. And this is what I was saying, like as a dad, as a father, I don't know what it is, as a husband, whatever, there are very few spaces where I can speak without being interrupted. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. This is a low key. I don't know if it's a negative thought I've had, but in the beginning of my marriage, because like what I described, I don't know if I talked over my wife a lot, but my rules of engagement and her rules of engagement were very different. You know what I'm saying? And I was talking with her like I talk with my boys or like I talk with anybody. If I'm in a conversation, a debate, we watch TV to get whatever it was like, if you're talking, then we both talking. Like let's talk, right? Like I don't want to the the process of me like stilling myself and pausing myself to let her speak was foreign to me. Very honest, was foreign and like, wow, like we could both do this. And so recently, and I think I've been cognizant of it as she's brought it up over the years. She hasn't brought it up recently, but within the last like 10 or so years, I've been very cognizant of that. And I sit on my hands a lot in our conversations. There are a lot of things that go unsaid. There's a lot of perspectives that I have that I'll just let die inside, and not in a negative way, just like, nah, it's not really important. And I think over time that has led to like a slow quieting of myself in the house, in my relationship, in different relationships too. It doesn't just happen in the house. It happens at work. It happens, with my friend group. I quiet myself a lot. I have a lot to say. Like, I'm a talker. And because I verbally process a lot of the people that how I've justified it to myself, right? Is that I'm around a lot of people that are from the South and that are from, more regulated communities that just like that's not how they operate and communicate. So again, this is not necessarily reinforced by my environment. This is just how I've processed it myself. So I sit on my hands a lot. I quiet myself. I censor myself. I think like, nah, is this going to add to the conversation? And even if I know that it will, I'm like, just let that slide. So, all that to say for the first 8 minutes is I enjoy having these solo episodes so I can just, talk and go through my own thoughts in my own pace, without not even pushback, because I'm the type of communicator that I don't really need a whole lot of pushback. I'm always self-regulating. I'm always, kind of, there's a social media post that I recently saw. It talked about like being wrong and the concept of like failing fast and being wrong quickly, and and following up and not having to like waiting to apologize, right? Um, I am constantly doing that on my own. And so, excuse me, I've never been the type to be like, oh, I'm, I'm wrong, or like, oh, I'm right, and dying on a hill, even though I know I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like that, there's some people, especially podcasters, who like that's their MO. Like, I'm going to die on this hill. I'm not a die on a hill type of dude. Like, if I'm wrong, like, oh yeah, in the moment, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That wasn't a correct statement. So, but with these type, with this solo interaction, it's good. Anyway, so recently I've had a lot of internal dialogue about belonging, what it means to belong. Oh, by the way, before we go into that, subscribe, listen to the podcast, spread the word. We are the idea of on Instagram, on TikTok. We are the idea of at gmail.com. Hit us up, let us know, comment on the post, rate, and subscribe. And a lot of people are like, why are you always telling me to rate? Because like that's what helps add our content to algorithms of people that comment on our stuff, and spread the word. So please do that. Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about belonging. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to belong. And I've been thinking about that because as I get older, I find myself alone a lot. We've talked about this on the show a lot, Bossy and I think she finds, it's somewhat similar for her. But over the holidays, it is highlighted in a different way. And on some level, I'm lucky because I kind of have three families. Like I have, I have a bunch of, groups that I'm a part of. I'm in a fraternity. I'm a part of, folks that I've been engaged with for a long time. So I have a lot of communities, but in terms of families, I have my mom, who's always been there. And on my mom's side, it's my uncle in Jersey. It's my, my brother and sister with on my mom's side. And of course my nuclear family, my wife and two children, my mom's side. And I have my dad's side, my Trini side, and then I have my stepdad's side, who has a few other relatives. And I often feel like I am an outsider in a lot of those family dynamics. And again, whenever I'm having a conversation, especially with the podcast, especially, as I'm sharing these thoughts, it's rarely from a place of like, woe is me, or it's so sad, or it's so bad. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. But I have acknowledged to myself that I spend a lot of time alone. And I also acknowledge that, I'm not actively doing much to re-engage with different aspects of my family that I'm not included, or that that I'm an outsider in, so I think about my dad's side, my actual blood father's side of the family. Most of my family's in Florida, that's the Trini side. And because of his relationship with my mom, and they separated when I was really young, I was always kind of like an add-on, right? Like I went and spent every summer in Florida from the time I was 4 or 5 to the time when I was 17, every summer. And those are, foundational memories and a part of who I am. Those summers in Miami were like, I could write a book about those summers. That's where I established my relationships with my cousins, with my siblings on my dad's side, like my aunts and uncles, just, and that culture, like that Trini culture, like that's where I developed and still sustain like a love of that culture and that community. And once I went away to college, it's mostly non-existent for me. I haven't really done much to bridge that gap, but it is noticeably vacant. And I feel like maybe at sometimes it does hurt my feelings. When people say, "Oh, you hurt my feelings," it's not like I'm in the corner crying, shivering in the cold rain. But it's something like, they could have invited me, or they could have called me, or they could have checked on me, or they could check on my kids, or but also I'm not checking on them. I'm not calling them. I'm not checking on their kids. And when I've tried, it hasn't really been fruitful. It hasn't really been much reciprocal engagement. But that does something to me, right? Like it does something. I feel that void, I think it's like as I get older, and as you get older and you start thinking about what family is, and you start, you know, trying to establish guidelines in my nuclear family, I'm even more cognizant about where there are holes in my current family situation. And there are holes in that, man. Like nobody, I feel like, I don't want to hyperbolize here, but I feel like not very many people on my dad's side of the family really fuck with me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm non-fuck wittable when it comes to that side of the family. And it's like I know why, but I don't really know why. Again, like I said, I'm always going to be accountable for my actions and like what I do or don't do. And I don't really feed those relationships. I don't really, check in like I should. I don't really check in on folks as I should. We're all online together. We all are Facebook friends, and I'm sure they see my accomplishments, the kids' accomplishments, etc. But I see that sometimes they get together. I'm not included. Sometimes they do things I'm not included. Now my dad, my blood father, um, I mean, he's something. You know what I'm saying? He is. again, as I get older, I feel like there was a phase in my life when I was, podcasting and talking to folks in these kind of forums where I would always start my statement with like, as an educator, right? Like, as an educator, I think like, but as I get older, that's my new one. As I get older, like I'm powerfully aware of the roles that men and fathers play in families. And as a father, as a man in my family, my nuclear family, and in all the different families and communities I'm in, I feel like I want to be a connector. You know what I'm saying? I want to be humble enough to bring folks together regardless of how I might feel slighted or how I might feel, you know, in regards to like individual relationships. I want to bring people together. And my father isn't really that way right now. He's hurt. He feels as if I hurt him and that a lot of his kids have hurt him. And so he's kind of in a fuck y'all space. That can never be me. I would never, I would never put him, put them, put my family, put people that I love in that position to be like, fuck y'all. And y'all need to come to me for us to be whole. And that's where he is right now. And this is not this is not me talking negatively about him, because I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Like I don't want to talk negatively about him. I love him, and I think that he thinks he was a good dad. You know what I'm saying? Let me say it again, because again, verbal processing. I think that he thinks he was a good dad. Now, this concept of a good dad is a trigger for me, because I oftentimes feel that people place, oh, you're such a good dad, and the bar is so low as to what even that means, right? I get that all the time. Like, you're such a good dad, because I come to school and bring my daughter her lunch when she leaves her lunch at home. Is that what makes me a good dad? Because I know my daughter's shoe size, because I take her to practice. That's what makes me a good dad. Now, if that's the bar, then that's the bar. You know what I'm saying? But I also recognize that folks have very narrow ideas and ideals for what fatherhood is, let alone good fatherhood, if that is even a thing, right? Like, as I become the father of older children now, right? Like my son is 19 and a half, my daughter's 13, and you know, being a good dad as they get older, being a responsive, reactive father as they get older is so much more challenging than when they were young. It's so much more than like doing stuff and checking things off the list. All right, did you do this? You packed her lunch, you take her to practice, you pick her up, you do this, you take her on field trips, you go to soccer games, you pick up the uniforms, you check their homework, you check in with their team. Like, those are things you check box off. I'm like, yeah, I did that, I did that. Right? As they get older, you got to do more, you have to connect in a different way. Or here's my beef with my dad a little bit. It's not beef, but it's my beef. The thing that I'm recognizing as the father of older children is that being a good father, whatever that is, your definition, takes so much more effort on my part. And it's like a hidden effort. It's an effort that I don't even know if my wife recognizes or acknowledges. I don't even know if the kids do, honestly, but I recognize it and feel it, because I feel the drain. Like I feel, you know, the drain of the worrying of making sure that my kids are okay holistically, making sure that, that their socio-emotional needs are met, that they feel comforted when they come home, that they feel like I'm present. It's so much more than checking all the daily things to make sure that they have food and lunch and snacks and dinner and all that stuff, right? So it's different as they get older. And I feel like my dad thinks that the things that he did for us when we were children, when we were 3 up until we were 17 or 18, was enough to sustain the relationship to now, where I'm 40 to fuck 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're talking to me as a almost 50-year-old man and you're talking about things that happened when I was 20 or when I was, and that's your reference point to what it means to be a father and why I should feel some sort of way to you now at 50 years old, it's kind of like, I mean, cool, like I hear you, if that's all you got. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a relationship that you might have formed with, some friends you had in middle school. And or even some friends you met in college like 20 years ago. Like, oh yeah, we were friends 20 years ago. If there aren't very many things that have happened between that time in your relationship and you're still like, oh, remember that time when we were 13 and we went to the store, we stole some nerds? Like, yes, I do remember that time. And also, that's not enough to sustain this relationship. And so I'm having an existential conflict in, the times where I've recently talked to my dad. He gets pretty ornery. Is that the word? He gets a little prickly, right? He gets a little, he gets defensive. Those defenses go up. Boy, that shame and guilt kick in, boy. He can't escape it. And I'll be talking to him on the phone. I'm like, damn, that shame and guilt is a bitch. Like, that shit got you in a fucking chokehold, my guy. Like, this is my self-talk as I'm hearing him talk. Like, damn. And I kind of feel sorry for him. Be like, oh man, like, geez, that's gotta hurt. And this is not even on some precocious shit. This is not me being like, see, you gotta do more to get more. No, it's not like that at all. I genuinely feel for him, right? Like, I don't want to put like what that feeling is. I think the the blatant feeling, the obvious feeling, I should say, is pity. Like, I don't like, on surface, like, damn, I feel sorry for you, my guy. But it's not that. It's not pity. It's just an observation. And if anything, it's fueling me for how I need to be present with my kids now, right? It's making sure that when I talk to my 19-year-old, that I'm not reveling in what he did when he was 17 or 13 or 4. It's like, who is the man that you're becoming right now? I want to get to know that person. I want to continue to get to know you and learn you and appreciate you and love you from this time forward, right? Understand that we have all this history, but from now, I want to get to know the new and improved you as you evolved. And that's the person I want to talk to. I don't want to talk to the 15-year-old you. Same with my daughter. You know what I'm saying? And so when I talk to my dad and I see that he is, upset, he's in the 70s. So, I'm sure as you get to that point in your life, you're starting to think like, man, I have way less time here than I have in the past. So, um, and he's choosing to, be a little stubborn, to be very, this is how it appears to me. It appears that he is choosing to be stubborn in that moment, in these moments. And he said out loud, straight up, my kids should honor me. And that might be the title of this episode, the idea of honor, right? I don't know, but my kids should honor me because I'm the dad, right? And like, y'all ain't honoring me. Like, y'all ain't doing right by me. Y'all don't call me. This is him. Y'all don't call me for Father's Day. Y'all barely call me for my birthday. Y'all don't check in on me. Da, 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 da. I have health issues and y'all don't. And I'd be like, true. I'd be like, you right. You are absolutely right. Um, all the things that he says that we do or don't do, he's not lying. He's not like embellishing, but it's out of context to me, right? It's like it's almost like, would I do that to a stranger? Like, would I check in and call and wish happy birthday and happy Father's Day to strangers? Then I'm not gonna do it for you, for real. I maybe I should. So the challenge for me is, am I being a bad son in the same way that people say like you're a good father? Like, am I being a bad son for not, by for not being able to bypass his shame and guilt and still like, hey, let me check up on old man, right? Like that's like when I get into those sentimental places and I'm alone, I'm like, damn, let me check in on the old man. Then I go to pick up the phone, I'm like, nah. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I'd be like, I should do it. So it's not like he's not on my mind. It's not like I don't think about him. It's not like I don't care. It's not like I don't love him, right? But there are those moments where I'm like, all right, let me check on them. Then I get on the phone. I get to the phone. I put the number in. I'm like, nah, we good. And I know for a fact that I will regret that. You know what I'm saying? I know that I will look back and I will second guess those decisions all the times where I was thinking like, man, I should have called my dad. And I know that that's like all of the speeches and eulogies that people give when people died. It's like, man, if I just had one more minute, man, I should have called you. When someone's on your mind, call them. And I think about that all the time. And I'm like, damn, I'm doing this wrong. And I should say, it kind of is what it is. And the takeaway for me is that I am using me and my dad's experience to inform how I engage with my children. You know what I'm saying? I think I've shared this either here on TikTok recently, but my sister on my dad's side was going through some challenges, just some stuff, and I was, trying to help her out by contacting my dad. And I was like, yo, like your daughter, she's is it's a lot going on. You should check in. And he was actually literally unable to get out of his feelings to support his daughter. And in that moment on the phone, I was like tearing up. And it wasn't even about my sister or him. It was like, damn, I don't ever want to be in a place with anybody that I love to the point where I can't get out of my own shame and guilt to be a father to my children, bro, to my kids. Somebody call me and be like, yo, your daughter, she's struggling, da 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 da. I seen this, she might need help with this, da 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 da. And my thing is, well, she ain't calling me. What? Yo, I got chills right now. Just thinking about that. Like just thinking that my hurt, ultimately, that's what it is, right? Like he's hurt. And we all get hurt. We all hurt for different things. The thought of allowing my hurt and my hurt feelings to get in the way of being a father or a father figure to my children makes me sick. It makes it makes my stomach turn. And so, as I'm processing this out loud, right? Those moments when I could call my dad and when I could, let me check it. That's the feeling that comes up in those moments. That sick feeling like, nah, he couldn't even reach out an extending hand to any, to this person, that person. So like, I don't feel like engaging with that kind of energy right now. And I literally don't have the spiritual space to engage with that. So like that right fuels the disconnection between me and my family on that side, right? Because, I'm sure people, hold on, drinking some water. People on that side of the family love him. He's a patriarch. Like he's extra just like me. He's a big personality. Like, there's so many things I see about him on his social media, and I'm like, yo, I do that too. Like, wow, that's crazy. Like genetics is a bitch. But that fuels that disconnection, and that fuels like my lack of belonging on that side of the family. Now on a little bit closer to home and I'm focusing on the fathers in my life, but just in general, like just because I'm a father and I'm always in that space thinking of fatherhood, right? And I think about on this side, my stepdad and his side of the family have always been a little distant, but not intentionally. Like, not like I don't fuck with them, they don't fuck with me. It's not like that. It's just after my stepdad and my mom separated and divorced, I was kind of out of sorts with him. I disengaged with him. And he has sisters and aunts, and he has nephews and people that I was close to when I was a kid, that as I became an adult, like it just didn't fit into my life. Like it just wasn't an everyday thing. People that I grew up calling aunts and uncles or cousins, and people that were close to me or I was close to at one point in time. And so I think about, like, over the holidays, my stepdad, who lives in the DMV area, will, have a Christmas breakfast and, have, people over the house, and I know I'm invited, but I don't feel invited. Does that make sense? Like, I don't feel like, it's me. It's me. It's me. I don't feel like I'm a part of that family. So I don't feel like I'm a part of that family, my stepdad's side. I don't feel like a part of the family on my actual dad's side. Then my mom is kind of in the middle. She kind of floats and goes wherever she is. She's like a familiar butterfly, like from the family, like she can go anywhere and be family, right? That's how my mom works. My mom is just like, she has love to give and give and give and give. I'm not like that on some level. Some levels I am, but it's hard for me to go into an environment where I don't feel like I'm explicitly wanted or invited to be like, hey, I brought some pudding. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey. And so I find, when it comes to holidays, it's just my nuclear family that is the, like the center of those times. Like for holidays, for Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, different things. You kind of have this idea that, oh, everyone's gonna come together. It's gonna be beautiful and da 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 da. And when the holiday time comes around, I often recognize that, we invite people over to our house. It's a beautiful time, but still, it still feels like a disconnect of my family. And it gets me to thinking about belonging and where do I really belong from a family perspective, from a relational perspective. We've said in the podcast before that the key and the access point to liberation is through community, and is through connecting with people, and is through, it's through family and making sure that you have touch points in different communities. And if I don't have those touch points and it's just my nuclear family, like my wife and my children, it can feel lonely, right? Like it could feel like, because ultimately, and I said this from the days before my kids were born, when they were in utero, especially when they were born, I am, I have always been in the mindset that we are raising our kids to leave us. Like that's ultimate everything from the very beginning, from the first meal you give them, from the first diaper you change, from the first time you put them in their crib to sleep. Everything we're doing and everything that I focus on with my kids is making sure that they have the right tools so that when they are not with me, that they can survive and thrive and live fulfilling lives. Of course, I'm always going to be there, but we are preparing our kids to leave us. And, if I don't belong anywhere, right? What is that grounding force for me? What is, where do I go to feel like home? And, I think what I've done to answer that question, to answer that internal need, is to make home wherever I go, right? Is to, like, home is when y'all, the quintessential y'all, come to me. That's home. That's where I feel like home. Here, wherever here is, right? And I don't know. I feel like that was enough at one point. Like that, in your 20s and 30s, like you have your friends, there's always people around. And like I've said on here many times, after moving to North Carolina, it hasn't felt like home. And I feel like again, I'm processing this in this exact moment. Those feelings that I had, like, North Carolina doesn't feel like home. I don't know if it's about North Carolina. It might just be about me and the disconnect, or the way I've intentionally or unintentionally or whatever have isolated myself, right? The extension, like, you have to extend yourself to people, even to family, to be connected. And I think my underlying sentiment is I'd rather not. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not, again, it's not beef. It's not like I'd rather not extend myself. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't know if it's that rugged individualism that white people do. Like, cause I don't really connect with that either. That's not really real for me either. It's like, yeah, I'm a tough it out alone. That's not me. I'd rather have lots of, I'm the extrovert. You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of people recently in the last like 10 or so years seem to like pride themselves in being introverted. I don't like that. I don't like introverts. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be introvert around me. Like, take your little the internal processing ass. Get the info out of here. I ain't got time for that. Introvert nasty. But no, in all seriousness, like I am, on the MBTI, the Myers Briggs, all the personality tests I've ever taken, like my extrovert level is literally off the charts. I think at one point I was a 98% extrovert. And what that means is that, you are powered and empowered by people being around you. And so with that, I'm processing in the moment. My power and my superpower come from other people around me. And I've isolated myself so that there are not a lot of people around me. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean for my outcomes? Like, what does that mean for my professional outcomes? What does that mean for my personal outcomes? How I get older, how I age? Like, you know, I work out by myself. I run by myself. I talk to myself. I'm by myself. I'm in this room where my office is, where I work like 9 hours a day solo. If you sleep for 6 hours, that's 15 hours where I'm by myself, 24-hour a day. Those other 9 hours, I'm, here and there and doing everything. But I don't know. I'm just thinking about that, man. I'm thinking about like, what is the intersection of like belonging and not belonging, including yourself and not including yourself, and isolation and inclusion, right? Part of what I learned in my research is the power of validation, right? And how important it is. My research is on Black fathers, of which I am, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like how important validation is in being a man, and being I don't even like in being a person. Like everyone wants to be validated on some part, right? Like we're not fueled by validation, but it's definitely a value add in a lot of spaces, right? We definitely feel better about certain decisions in our lives when they're validated. And if I've done such a hell of a job in isolating myself, where am I getting that social, emotional validation from in my life? And I think the answer is I'm not, right? Like, and maybe in some ways I'm seeking it. So what does it look like when someone is seeking validation, but they've isolated themselves? What does that look like? What is that like? What does that even mean? You know what I'm saying? Well, how does that play itself out in real life? And so, these are the questions that I've been pondering the past few years. It's not even months, it's years that I've been thinking. It might be 8 years, and that, we've been in North Carolina for 7 or 8 years now, since 2018. So 7 years. I don't know, man. I say a lot of times when I'm speaking to myself and I'm talking out loud to myself, I say like, yeah, I got to do better. I got to do better. I got to check up on people. I got to join a grad chapter. That's been a thing. I'm going to join a grad chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. I'm going to get re-involved in the community. Then I go and I'm like, no. I've gone to a couple chapter meetings here, and I'm like, then I'm like, I'm going to call my dad. And I'm like, and I'm like, all right, let me call my brothers and sisters and stay connected with them. And, with my brothers and sisters on my mom's side, it's easier to do, right? Like we're closer, we're, even though they're younger than me by a lot, right? Like my brother is 12 years younger. My sister is 15 years younger than I am. So I'm kind of like in an uncle, stepdad type space with them. But it's been easier to reconnect and connect with them, right? And to maintain that connection. It just hasn't been the case with other family members in my life. And I think it's something to consider for a lot of men who I would assume find themselves in this situation. Find themselves, you know, I always think of like every now and again a random rap line will hit me, and Drake had a line in an old song where he's like, who the fuck wants to be 70 and alone? You know what I'm saying? I think he was talking about his mom who got a divorce from his dad, and who the fuck wants to be 70 and alone? And I think about that all the time. I don't know if it's a fear that I'm gonna be 70 and alone. You know what I'm saying? But I'm 48 and I feel alone a lot. And I don't and that's the thing, like I'm so emotional, y'all. Like I'm such an emo kid, low key. Like I'm such a feelings person, you know. Um, I could watch a commercial and like I'll get chill bumps or I'll feel lumpy throated. Like if something really moves me, I might just be talking. Like sometimes, they always say like when you go to conferences or whatever, you go to events, you got to introduce yourself. Sometimes I would go and I would say, "Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm a father." And they say, "Tell me about your kids." And I'll start talking about my kids and start tearing up. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not sad. Like, what's going on with me? But that's how emotional I am. Like that's how not emotional. I'm actually not very emotional. I'm very, very sensitive, right? And so like I feel everything crazy. Like it's crazy. I also recognize it's my superpower, but I feel things for other people. You know what I'm saying? Now, in terms of emoting that, like in terms of like, do other people know that I'm sensitive? Do other people see me being sensitive? Not as much as it used to be, right? Like when I was a kid, I was always crying. Like I remember stories my uncle like, damn, you always crying about something. But that's just, that's how I'm wired. But as I've gotten older, that emoting piece, that emotional piece is almost turned off. Like it's almost like, nah. And the reason why I bring that up in this conversation is because as I'm talking through feelings of being isolated, right? If it was really hurting me, if I really didn't want to be isolated, I'd be crying about it. I'd feel a way about it. I'd be like, "Bro, I don't want to be," so I'm like, what do I do with it? But I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I'm good. So that's the part that's fuck with me a little bit. That's the part that's like, I'm okay with being isolated. I'm okay with being solo dolo and not having a real place to belong and to be. But I also know and can intellectualize that that's not a good place for anybody to be. That's not a place. No one should be that alone. No one should be that isolated. But I was thinking about the other day, like if something happened and I'm outside somewhere, I get hurt, I get stranded on the side of the road, or I run out of gas somewhere. Someone's chasing me. I don't know what to do. What do I? Who who am I gonna call? I don't really have nobody to call. I don't know. Let me be real. I'm being real. I'm being real here. This is the when I say fail fast. This is me being wrong in the moment, right? I have a million people I can call. I have a lot of people. I have a list of fraternity brothers. I have a list of family members that I could call that will be there, and I know it. But still something that like I don't know. It's just something that doesn't feel natural to me doing that. It doesn't feel like I have so many doubts of, well, do they don't really want to hear them. They're not gonna help. My mom tells stories. This is how, there's a part of us that have been wired the way that we are since we were kids that's going to remain the same for the rest of our life. My mom used to tell me stories when I was a kid and I would have birthday parties. I would get sad before the birthday party started because I never thought anyone would come. Again, this is not a pity. This is not, play the sad music. I should play sad music behind this right now. So like to create some emotion. But that shit still happens to this day. Right. And this is how I know I'm wrong. This is how I know I'm wrong. And this is how like our feelings may not always reflect reality, because I've had those feelings of like, no one's going to come to my party. No one's going to come out to this. I'll have stuff at the house back when I was in Maryland. Like, no one's gonna drive hours to come and hang out. And I mean, I don't know if there's ever a time where I've opened up my home or had an event somewhere at a club, lounge, whatever, and there weren't 30 people there. Again, not about the number, but just the fact that I'm doing something right, I guess. I don't know. I was doing something right. Another story I always tell. So the birthday party story, no one's going to a party. Everybody comes to my party. When I was in my 20s, I worked at Salisbury University in Maryland for like a year. I worked in residence life. So I had my own apartment, and, Salisbury, Maryland is like 2 hours, 2.5 hours outside of DC, 3 hours from Richmond, Virginia. It's mad far from everything. It's literally on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. You got to take a bridge and 10 tunnels to get there. It's wild. It's isolated. And in the year 2000, in the year 2000, y'all remember that skit from Conan O'Brien? Okay. In the year 2000, I started hosting I called them black parties. Like, it was New Year's parties. People wear all black, so black party. And I had the first one. It was in Salisbury, in my hall director apartment. And again, I was 1 year out of college. A lot of my friends were still in college at James Madison University. And I was like, yo, yeah, y'all come through, you know what I'm saying? I have my whole apartment. Everybody can come stay. We young. We don't need nothing. We air mattresses. What was that? We didn't do that. We slept on the floor, get a blanket, throw down, have couches. Everybody's good. But I'm thinking like, man, ain't nobody coming out to Salisbury, Maryland, man. Let me just close it up. So I literally remember that night, right? It's like 8 o'clock, New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2000, going into 2001. 8 o'clock, nobody show up. I'm like, man, it's just me at the time, my girlfriend, who's my wife now, my girlfriend at the time. Like, man, ain't nobody showing up. Sure enough, 9:30, 10 o'clock, right, everybody come in. There's mad people there. We had 10 people, 12 people. These are broke, poor, new professionals, kids that were still in college, coming up, drove 3 hours. It was raining. It was dark. People like, yo, where the fuck? And we had so much fun. But it just shows that, like, usually when I make the call, people show up for me. That black party in 2021, New Year's 2001, I did a black party every year for like 8 years. Where on New Year's, I'd open up wherever I was living, I'd open up our house, and the joint would be packed. And it was never fancy. It was never really nice. It was just like people wanted to be in community with and around me. And I fueled that. That was me. I did that for my 40th birthday party. I had folks coming from all over the place, from Florida, California, like my brothers on my dad's side family came. We had a fucking ball, and it's always full. It's always packed. So I'm saying all this to say, and tying it back to, this is where my feelings and the reality are not aligned. Because my feeling is that no one's going to come out. No one cares, whatever. But the reality is, whenever I've done it, people come out and they show love. But why? Why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? I don't know. It's not a rhetorical question. It's an actual question. I don't know what has me feeling the need to isolate myself in this way. What has me feeling like, so that's something I'm going to explore. This is not for me to figure out and handle right now, but that's something that I'm definitely going to explore, and to really think about. And I don't want to pass that down to my kids. I don't want to pass down that kind of, like, it kind of gets to a point, where, sometimes I take it to the extreme. I'm going to tell you exactly how, but I'm kind of drawing it out because it's a little embarrassing. But I take it to the extreme. Like, sometimes I get to a nobody loves me type situation. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I might express that, like, nobody loves me. Like, nobody loves me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get on that. You get on that mode, and it's hard to break through. That's the mental illness coming through. And I say mental illness like tongue in cheek, but I feel like that is me being hyper aware that something I'm feeling is not real. And to me, that's a mental illness. That is an aspect of a there's a break somewhere between reality and my feelings. And I'll get into that, and I'll be stuck there for a while. Like nobody love me, man. I ain't gonna care about people. I'm not gonna care about nobody because nobody care about me. So I'm gonna be so low, and I'm gonna be so low. You know what I'm saying? That's the mode I be in sometimes. And if I'm again being honest, I could see that I I could think of so many instances where I've said those words out loud. Like, man, y'all don't need me. I mean, y'all love me. I'm gonna be solo. You know what I'm saying? I don't need nobody but myself. My boy SK always talks about this story. We were in college, and all my brothers were going on a field trip, on a road trip somewhere. And I don't know, I was in the mood. I don't know what it is. He was joking with me like, "You never come out." And I was like, "I don't need y'all. I got my girl." You know, I don't need none of y'all. I'm talking to my fraternity brothers. Like these are my brothers, like people that I've come to love. You know, like I don't need y'all. I got my girl. And that makes that's that we could take that to the next chapter too. And is my isolation from people overtaxing for my wife? Like the way that I've isolated myself, does that create too much of a response, or does she feel the responsibility to either try to reconnect me back to people or to entertain me, to keep me feeling up? Now I know on the surface the answer for that is no, because I kind of isolate myself from her too. Like I don't expect or want her to feel that way, but again, we all take things on based on what we see, right? Like she might see me being isolated, like, all right, let me cheer him up, or whatever. That doesn't happen, but you know what I'm saying? She might feel that that's what she has to do, which is an unnecessary burden on her. But that, what I'm talking about, and as I'm describing it, I feel like so many men go through this and end up being 70 because this might be oversimplifying it. So forgive me if it is. Because we feel like we do better by ourselves, or we don't, here it goes. We don't know and have not practiced what it means and what it requires to maintain connection. Breakthrough for me. Breakthrough for me. Because I feel like I didn't necessarily I didn't necessarily grow up with like a lot of friends. I got friends in college, and my friends in college and afterwards, up until about 7 years ago, were because of their proximity to me and because of our proximity to each other. We were all close. We all lived in DC. We all lived within a 2 or 3 or 4 hour drive from one another. So it wasn't nothing to see each other every weekend or during the week, or whatever. Let's go over to blah blah blah's house. Let's hang out here. And that was regardless of us having kids or not, babies. We all had babies. Our babies would be in the room in the back, and we would be partying in the front. Like it wasn't anything. But the 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 condition that allowed for that to happen was our proximity to each other. And I don't know if I know, I'm not gonna say all men know, or all men don't, or do know, but I don't know if I know what it takes to maintain those connections when you're not in proximity to one another. And I don't know if I have what it takes to do that. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't know if I have the patience to sit on the phone and call people, or the memory, or the fort the what's the word? The intentionality behind checking, oh, how your kids doing? How's your son? I don't know if I have that in me. I could be intentional about it and make it a part of who I am and what I do, but I haven't done that yet. So that is like that is my ultimate reflection, and that is what those are the things that keep me up at night, man. I don't want to be 70 and alone. I don't want to be isolated, but I don't mind being isolated. Is that real? Is that normal? Is that like am I okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm never going to cry about being isolated. Matter of fact, I wish there was more time for me to be solo, like to be alone, like in the house, like nobody here, shit type shit, like walking around in my robe, smoking a cigar in the house. You know, it's like solo, like singing Drew Hill when no one's around. Five step like that, like that's the level of alone I'd like to be occasionally. No, I don't want to live like that. But the things I dream about, daydream, like, damn, like imagine if nobody was here. Ooh, I'd be going crazy. But anyway, that's enough of my internal dialogue for this very public podcast and all three of our listeners. But thanks for entertaining me, y'all. You know, this is a conversation I think is super important for us to be thinking about it and how we want to be connected, the importance of connectivity, what it means to be validated, how our isolation reduces opportunities for validation, and are are our feelings separated from the reality when it comes to our isolation and when it comes to how much we think people want to be around us and how much we think we need people around us. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. This is the Idea of Podcast. Again, listen, subscribe, post, all that stuff. We'll holler at you next week when Bossy is back on the show. Thank y'all for listening, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace out.